Hello, everyone. Good being here today. So one of the major themes that we've seen in this conference already is the coming together of digital with analog or physical. We have seen a proliferation of health sensors embedded into everything, from watches through to automobiles through to biofabrics. This is a theme that was touched on this morning by the folks at Medtronic, in particular, when they spoke about the coming together of these two worlds, the physical and the digital. This is a theme that AccurKardia very much, in some sense, plays into. The specific challenge, though, that this creates is, while it does solve for some problems, it also creates new problems. If you think about the proliferation of sensors out there, the amount of data that is being created today as a result of these sensors is exponentially larger than what was available to clinicians all through up to this point. This data, in some sense, having too much data is potentially as not useful as having too little data. In fact, in some contexts, you can make the argument that having too much data is perhaps worse than having very little data. And this is the context, this is the overall larger problem that AccurKardia as a company is trying to solve. We're essentially building a solution that allows the world to take the data, to take all of the noisy data in particular, and identify the signal from that data, to make this data actionable, to make this data reliable, and to basically allow this data to enable efficient clinical intervention and save millions of lives. That's essentially our mission, and that's what we're working towards. Let's take the context of where we currently play, which is in the cardiovascular context. This morning, yesterday, when the CEO of Siemens Health was speaking, he specifically called out three major challenges in healthcare. He mentioned the challenge of having very limited resources and the resources being stretched, just not enough skilled resources in healthcare. He spoke about the challenge of 3 billion people in the world not having access to quality healthcare. And he also spoke about the challenge of having the pandemic of cancer, in some sense, that we're dealing with. Well, there is another very large, perhaps even larger pandemic than cancer, which is cardiovascular disease. In the US alone, approximately 16 million people suffer from a cardiac arrhythmia, which can be a precursor to a heart attack, to a stroke. That's about 5% of the US population. About 650,000 people die annually due to a cardiovascular issue. And there are solutions out there that enable better tracking, better monitoring of cardiovascular disease, but nonetheless, we're very much at stage one of the process of tackling this problem. We've built a solution called AccurAI, which we think of in some ways as an operating system for ECG hardware. The device that we work with are everything from ambulatory holters and event monitors through to wearables, through to even bedside monitors. The context in which it can be used is very, very wide-ranging. The major advantages of our solution relative to other options out there potentially in the market today are beyond the fact that it's device agnostic. Most of the solutions out there are vertically integrated into a specific hardware device, are that it's near real time, it has clinical grade accuracy, and it works on a very, very low compute footprint. Now, if you think about it, people focus in on the accuracy side of it, on the device agnostic side of it, which is of course important, but I think what's equally important is the ability to process all of this data near real time and the ability to do it on a low compute footprint. Particularly as you think about the use cases in which healthcare is going to move towards and these health sensors are going to be moving towards. Think about the context, for example, in an international space station or even further in space exploration. In those contexts, you don't have access to AWS and very heavy cloud compute. You need to have the ability to process information at the edge on potentially very, very, very low compute footprints. Take the context of autonomous driving. We have vehicle equipment manufacturers like Bosch, for example, embedding ECG sensors into the steering wheels of automobiles. Think of it in the context of an autonomous vehicle where you potentially need to know if somebody is falling asleep. The way that's done today is through computer vision. That's not necessarily the best way of determining that. A better way of determining that is to see if someone's heart rate is dropping and if the person's going to go into potential sinus bradycardia. Now, if you were in that context, the ability to run that software on the car computer and in context where you don't have cloud connectivity at all becomes extremely critical. So these use cases that are not your typical traditional ECG analytics use cases, applying existing solutions for just doesn't work. You need to have a solution that can work in near real time, if not real time, and at very, very low compute footprints. So our initial product is AccurECG. This is more for the event monitors and holter space. It is a cloud-based web application that is going through an FDA approval process as we speak. This particular product is going through a 510(k) process. It's a Class 2 medical device, and software as a medical device, essentially. And at the point that we do get approval, it will have the broadest arrhythmia coverage of any similar device out there in the market, which is significantly greater than really anything else out there as far as what they can cover in terms of arrhythmias. In terms of other products that we've been building, we've built an application that functions alongside wearables. We've built it in the beginning with the Apple Watch, but we've since adapted it to other consumer devices as well. This particular product was built within about 3 months of Apple making their data available to developers. This device provides a very fast turnaround time and clinical-grade analytics in the context of consumer wearables. And we've developed a workflow along with it, which allows you to potentially make the entire workflow reimbursable, which isn't the case today with Apple Watches and the reports coming out of the Apple Watch. We are now in the process of building out an API-based software, which will allow any device manufacturer that is building a ECG-based hardware device to integrate directly into our workflows. This particular product, we are doing some R&D at the moment. We're working with some hardware partners that are right now in the research phase with us, and we will hopefully commercialize with them as we get our regulatory approval. In terms of the Apple product, the AccurBeat product that you saw in the previous slide, if anyone wants to see a demo of that product, we can do that after this presentation. Dr. Naveed Razvi, who is here, who's our Chief Medical Officer and a cardiologist here based out of the UK, he was part of a group including HIT Lab in New York as well as SUNY Downstate that have done some clinical research on that as well that will be published within the next quarter or so in JIMR Formative. So we are pursuing the clinical research path even on the AccurBeat product. In terms of where our devices currently operate, in terms of the market segments that we operate in the outpatient ambulatory segment with the AccurECG device. We operate in the telehealth segment with the AccurAPI device. And we have a roadmap in place to do this on device in the context of a bedside monitor in the inpatient telemetry segment. The AccurBeat and AccurAPI products are also very relevant to the D2C segment as well as non-clinical use cases. The team itself is comprised of entrepreneurs, health tech entrepreneurs, as well as entrepreneurs from the technology space in general, AI researchers, electrical engineers, Dr. Razvi, who is a cardiologist, as well as a panel of other cardiologists, including Dr. Ajay Srivastava from Scripps, Dr. Eduardo Hernandez from Texas Heart, and Dr. Andy Petke, who is both a cardiologist as well as actually a doctor as well as an entrepreneur from UCSF. The company was formed in 2019, though the research that led to the formation of the company started all the way back in 2015. We did an initial pre-seed raise of about 1.6 million starting in October of 2019. We didn't raise any money after that until about a month ago when we started our seed raise. We initiated a seed raise of about 2.5 million, of which we've raised about 1.3 already, and not just committed, but that's actually been transferred over to us. We are continuing to do the seed raise, and we hope to close the 2.5 million target within the next 2 months or so. In terms of where we plan on using these funds, we're going to be using them primarily to continue to build out a product roadmap, to continue to commercialize and build partnerships with hardware manufacturers in the ECG space and potentially outside of the ECG space as well. And we are also going to pursue additional regulatory approvals as well as additional clinical trials or clinical validation that Dr. Razvi will lead up. That's it from my end. Thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to catch me outside. Thank you.